Our Divine Mother says, keep your aspiration ardent and sincere, and never forget that you are the child of the Divine. It will prevent you from doing anything unworthy of the Divine children. With always our love and blessings, says our Divine Mother. Sri Aurobindo Savitri, Book 3, The Book of the Divine Mother, Canto 4, The Vision and the Boon, page 387. Huge revolutions of life's fruitless sky. The newborn ages perish like the old, as if the sad enigma kept its right, till all is done for which this scene was made. Too little the strength that now with us is born, too faint the light that steals through nature's lids, too scant the joy with which she buys our pain. In a brute world that knows not its own sense, thought racked upon the wheel of birth will live, the instruments of an impulse not our own, moved to achieve with our heart's blood for prize, half knowledge, half creations that soon tire. A foiled immortal soul in perishing limbs, baffled and beaten back, we labor still, annulled, frustrated, spent, we still survive. In anguish we labor that from us may arise a larger seeing man with nobler heart, a golden vessel of the incarnate truth, the executor of the divine attempt, equipped to wear the earthly body of God, communicant and prophet, and lover and king. I know that thy creation cannot fail. Words of our Lord Sri Aurobindo, taken from the collective works of our Lord Sri Aurobindo, SABCL, book The Mother with letters on the Mother. Topic: The Mother's Presence. The constant presence. Our Lord Sri Aurobindo says, live always as if you were under the very eye of the Supreme and of the Divine Mother. Do nothing, try to think and feel nothing that would be unworthy of the Divine's presence. The Mother's personal and universal presence is the next subtopic. Question: you have written, always behave as if the Mother was looking at you because she is indeed always present. You explained to me that this does not mean that she was physically present everywhere because that was impossible. But when I asked the Mother about this, she said that she was present personally at all places. How to reconcile these contradictory statements? For this, our Lord Sri Aurobindo says, if by physically you mean corporeally in her visual, tangible, material body, it is obvious that it cannot be. When you ask the Divine Mother that question, She meant that she could be present everywhere. She meant, of course, in her consciousness. It is the consciousness and not the body that is the being. The person, the body, only a support and instrument for the action of the consciousness. Mother can be personally present in her consciousness. The universal presence, of course, is always there, and the universal and personal are two aspects of the same thing, says our Lord Sri Aurobindo. The mother's emanations. Question: what is the exact significance of your statement, always behave as if the mother was looking at you, because she is indeed always present? For this, our Lord Sri Aurobindo says, it is the emanation of the Divine Mother that is with each sadhak at all the time. In former days, when she was spending the night in a trance and not working in the ashram, she brought back with her the knowledge of all that was happening to everybody. Nowadays, she has no time for that. Question: all this is very interesting, and I suppose you have an equal number of emanations yourself. The object must be to give us protection. For this, our Lord Sri Aurobindo says, I am not aware of any emanations of mine. As for the mothers, they are not there for protection but to support the personal relation or contact with the sadhak and to act so far as he will allow them to act. Next subtopic: the mother's presence and the divine consciousness. Question: is there any difference between the mother's presence and the divine consciousness? For this, our Lord Sri Aurobindo says, one can feel the divine consciousness impersonally as a new consciousness only. The mother's presence is something more. One feels herself there, present within or above or enveloping one or all these together. Next subtopic: the mother's presence within. Our Lord Sri Aurobindo says, he must go into himself. He must go into himself and find the presence of the Divine Mother within and the psychic behind the heart, and from there the knowledge will come and all the power to dissolve the inner obstacles. Our Lord Sri Aurobindo says, the constant presence of the mother comes by practice. The divine grace is essential for success in the sadhana, but it is the practice that prepares the descent of the grace. You have to learn to go inward, ceasing to live in external things only. Keep the mind and aspire to become aware of the mother's workings in you. Question: we believe that the Divine Mother is doing the sadhana in all of us, particularly through the heart, but how is it we scarcely feel this? There must be some wheel in us. For this, our Lord Sri Aurobindo says, it is a wheel which disappears when the mother's working as well as her presence is consciously felt at all times. Question: how and when can one feel the mother's concrete presence all the time? For this, our Lord Sri Aurobindo replied on the 16th of October 1933 and says, it is a matter, first, of the constant activity of the psychic, and secondly, of the conversion of the physical and its openness to inner supraphysical experience. Apart from the vital and its disturbances, the physical is the chief difficulty in establishing a continuity of yogic consciousness and experience. If the physical is thoroughly transformed and opened and conscious, then stability and continuity becomes easy, says our Lord. It is quite right and part of the right consciousness in the sadhana that you feel drawn in your heart towards the mother and aspire for the vision and realization of her presence. But there should not be any kind of restlessness joined to this feeling. The feeling should be quietly intense. It will then be easier for the sense of the presence to come and to grow in you. Question: is it true that the presence, that is, the image, is seen in the heart? All the habits and movements of the lower nature disappear? For this, our Lord Sri Aurobindo says, the image and the presence are not the same. One can feel the presence without seeing the image, but to produce the results you speak of, the presence in the heart is not sufficient. There must be presence in the whole consciousness, and the mother and the force of the mother governing all the action of all the nature. The mother, the presence of the mother in front. In the evening meditation is the question. There was an intense moment of surrender from the heart. I had the feeling of the Divine Mother's presence immediately in front, and aspiration rose from below the feet and from the legs. And there was a willing and loving surrender from the heart, from the entire being, as if for fulfillment. I suppose the psychic being came to the front. But why did I feel the mother's presence in front and not within me? For this, our Lord Sri Aurobindo says, you had the psychic condition then, and that means a coming of the influence of the psychic being to the front. It is when there is a complete psychic opening that there is a presence within. The presence in front means that it was with you but had still to enter within. But I do not see why I call the feeling sentimental or think that your sense of the presence of the mother in the heartbeats was unreal. It was your psychic being that suggested that to you, and the response showed that the consciousness was ready. Mother felt that something was happening in you and felt that it was the beginning of a realization. She was encouraging it and did not discourage. The presence of the Divine Mother during the day. If you feel, says our Lord, if you feel the Divine Mother's presence for the greater part of the day, it means that it is your psychic being that is active and feels like that. For without the activity of the psychic, it will not be possible. Therefore, your psychic being is there and not at all far off, says our Lord Sri Aurobindo. Feeling of presence and oneness with the mother. And Lord Sri Aurobindo gave the statements on the 16th of September 1936 and says, there is no necessary precedence as that first one must feel the presence and then only can one feel oneself the mother's. It is more often the increase of the feeling that brings the presence. For the feeling comes from the psychic consciousness, and it is the growth of the psychic consciousness that makes the constant presence at last possible. Our Lord Sri Aurobindo says the feeling comes from the psychic, and it is true of the inner being. It is not being yet fulfilled in the whole, does not make it an imagination. On the contrary, the more it grows, the more is the likelihood of the whole being fulfilling this truth. The inner bhava takes more and more possession of the outer consciousness and remolds it so as to make it a truth there also. This is the constant principle of action in the yogic transformation. What is true within comes out and takes possession of the mind and heart and will, and through them prevails over the ignorance of the outer members and brings the inner truth out there also. Wheeling of the Mother's presence. Our Lord Sri Aurobindo wrote these words on the 25th of March 1932 and says, the Divine Mother's presence is always there, but if you decide to act on your own idea, your own notion of things, your own will, and demand upon things, then it is quite likely that her presence will get wheeled. It is not she who withdraws from you, but you who draw back from her. But your mind and vital does not want to admit that because it was always their preoccupation to justify their own movements. If the psychic were allowed its full predominance, this would not happen. It would have felt the wheeling, but it would at once have said, There must have been some mistake in me. A mist has risen in me, and it would have looked and found the cause. Our Lord Sri Aurobindo says the Divine Mother's presence, whose fading you regret, can only be felt if the inner being continues to be consecrated and the outer nature is put into harmony, or at least kept under the touch of the inner spirit. But if you do things which your inner being does not approve, this condition will be eventually tarnished. Each time the possibility of your feeling the presence will diminish. You must have a strong will to purification and an aspiration that does not flag and cease if the Mother's grace is to be there and effective, says our Lord Sri Aurobindo. By remaining psychically open to the Mother, all that is necessary for work or sadhana develops progressively, and that is one of the chief secrets, the central secret of the sadhana. But it is not by upadesha that the sadhana is carried on. It is only those who are capable of aspiration and meditation on the Mother to open and receive her action and working within that one can succeed in this yoga, says our Lord Sri Aurobindo. Prayers and Meditations, February 20th, 1914. The only thing that is important, the one thing that counts, is the will to be identified more and more completely with Thee, to unite our consciousness with Thy absolute consciousness, to be more and more the peaceful, calm, disinterested, strong servitor of Thy sovereign law, Thy loving will. O Lord, give me the peace of perfect disinterestedness, the peace which makes Thy presence effective, Thy intervention efficacious, the peace ever triumphant over all bad will, all obscurity. Lord, very humbly I pray to Thee that I may be equal to my task, that nothing in me, conscious or unconscious, may betray Thee by neglecting to serve Thy sacred mission. In a silent devotion I bow to Thee. In a silent devotion I bow to Thee.